All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, host Brandon, join my co-host Nick and Dan, and gentlemen, Fulham match review, the Fulham Broadway review. That's right, the noisy neighbors. We are at the bottom of the West London table. It is not pretty, but we're going to run it back because there were some pretty things, Dan. I don't know if you saw Enzo's haircut. Dude looks fresh off 106 some odd million transfer.
He looked a lot sharper than a couple of people who've been in this side for quite some time. So I'm very excited to talk about Enzo Fernandez. Nick, I maybe am less excited to talk about some of the other performances on the evening.
Like anything to do with the attack or what?
What is an attack?
It's a really great question. I find myself feeling like I understood football, and then now I'm just digressing from the mean there. So yeah, there's a lot to fix. We'll get into it.
Well, obviously expectations riding absolutely to the moon after that transfer window, especially with Enzo sealing. So we'll talk about him, right? We'll talk about his debut. We'll talk about Friday Night Football and how maybe we should leave that to the Americans. And we'll hammer home some of the changes that probably still need to be made. So as always, Dan, temp check with the lovely audience out there. 3-word match review. How's everyone doing?
This might be the most responded to 3-word match review ever. It's at 600 and We're 5 or 6 hours removed and people are still responding. So very wonderful. The listeners, exceptional. 10 out of 10 rating for your performance today. The way that we got into it was Jeff with the can't cash in. There are a lot of money puns, clearly. Kalen with the transfer market withdrawals.
That's fun.
Chelsea Finland with the preseason has begun. Dart Texan with the goals seem impossible. And a little bit of the Sean Bean, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. It is folly. GIF associated with it. Jason with the agree with Boley, and it's just his reaction looking up to the heavens in SW6 after one of the many times that a ball did not go into the back of the net. Shane with the points are amortized, so I guess we're just getting those points out over time. Craig with, had to bring some positive back at the end with Enzo a Ferrari. I think that is true. He's definitely a engine there. And then Clip Show with the Dortmund preseason friendly, which is a great way to think about this on our run in to winning the Champions League, Nick.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Bark, no bite. Pretty straightforward. Lots of yapping today. Both teams physical, nothing else.
I kind of was with that as well. I said not offensive enough. In enough ways, not obviously offensive production. To your point, no bite. We weren't offensive enough just of like on the pitch. So a little bit more needs to happen.
I went with beta, not prod. It's a little bit of a, when you think about coding or building a program, you have phases that you do that in. And we are not at the production phase for this Chelsea side yet. There's still a lot of experimentation going on, just building out the systems and structures. And so, I think expectations and reality did not connect today.
I mean, they were never gonna, were they?
Yeah. I think this is why this one hurts more, or people are more frustrated at the end result because of the high we just had over the last 48, 72 hours of the end of the transfer window into now. It does feel a little muted and like the result did not match some of the off the pitch investment to really try to supercharge this side for the back half of the season.
Huge shouts to Rakesh who joined us up on Patreon. We'll see you in Discord. Apple Podcasts are back with the Z Medic in the US and Jules 4559 from the UK. Continuing to climb in Spotify as well on a road to 2,000 reviews. But you're all here for the match review. It was Fulham this past Friday, the 3rd of February. We were playing in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. In case you missed it, Chelsea 0, Fulham 0. I actually walked in at halftime and Elizabeth was working. She's like, what's the score? I said 0-0. She goes, you mean 0-0? I was immediately put in my place.
Picking it up. There you go.
She's going to fit right in our trip, apparently. So obviously no goals, but we'll kick it over to the fifth standout for the highlights. Obviously, if you haven't downloaded the official Chelsea FC app, do it. They drop lineups, Enzo photos, and everything else there first. You won't want to miss it. So thanks for letting us use the content. We'll be right back. All right, Dan, that means you're up 4-3-3, 4-4-3, 6-5-7. I mean, whatever. It didn't really matter at this point. But who was out there?
Well, you saw the clean sheet specialist and Kepa Arrizabalaga between the sticks. It was Benoit Badiashile, Thiago Silva, Reece James back from his injury, and Marc Cucurella as your back four. Then you had Enzo Fernandez, Mason Mount, and Conor Gallagher. It's going to be so weird for the next couple of weeks to continue saying Enzo Fernandez as a part of our midfield lineup, but I love it. And then Mykhailo Mudryk, Hakim Ziyech, and Kai Havertz is your attacking trio. Ben Chilwell back in the very, very final minutes of the game. Cesar Azpilicueta coming in as a replacement as well. Raheem Sterling, David Ocho Fofana, and Madueke all getting a chance to come out and strut their stuff today. Trev Chalobah, Koulibaly, Chukwuemeka, and Bettinelli, unused substitutes. I think the big one, Nick, was no Aubameyang in the Champions League squad or in the matchday squad, despite not being injured.
Do you think that that's a coincidence, Dan?
No, I don't.
Okay, nor do I.
I put a poll out about that just to kind of like gauge everybody was. Yeah, I'm sure the pod account didn't retweet it, but whatever, that's cool.
Wow.
So I put
slacking.
Wow.
As if, I don't have access to it. But anyways, I said, so what do we expect from Aubameyang the rest of the season? Option 1 is bench and sporadic minutes. Option 2 is not in the matchday squad at all. Option 3 was train with the U21s. And option 4 was lots of Premier League minutes. Screw it. He's going to play every single game. Almost 59% said bench with sporadic minutes, followed up with almost 30% said not in the match day squad. Obviously, it's the first game, but I don't know how much we're going to see of Aubameyang.
It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere positive.
Orlando City, by chance? What do you think, Pierre?
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's the right move, but yeah, it's doesn't feel like it's going anywhere positive. And I think we're going to look back at a summer of maybe misses in the transfer market, and that could be the biggest miss because, I mean, it's obvious that he has not been very good or useful so far and came here to play for his former boss. His former boss was fired a week later, and, that's just the way things go. So, I don't expect much out of him, and maybe this is just a kind of quiet ride into the sunset.
All right, some of the top line stats from the Premier League website: 66% possession. We had 12 shots, 3 on target to Fulham's 10 shots. They had 4 on target. Let's see. We had 24 tackles to their 19. We had 14 clearances to their 20, 6 corners to their 2. Sorry, Connor. It ain't it. Need to switch that up. Offsides, we had 3 to their 0, 1 caution to their 4, and we conceded 16 fouls to their 12. And the random stat from Opta was 64. Graham Potter's made 64 changes to Chelsea's starting 11 in his 15 Premier League games in charge so far. The second most in a manager's first 15 games in charge of a club in Premier League history, behind only his predecessor, Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea, 66. Tinkerman, not Tinkermen. Right. We locked in the plural of that, but Tinker Man in this case.
Trademark. That is
a lot of injuries.
Is the Tuchel thing surprising to you? Like, I guess I wouldn't have seen Tuchel. I thought that would have been like a Lampard stat. I don't know.
So like the 6 months he didn't, right? The 6 months it was like copy paste. But then definitely it for different reasons, obviously some injuries and things like that. Remember when like we were the only squad with all of the.
This, though, is a stat on the first 15 games in charge of a club in Premier League history. So this would actually, I think, be more expected initially because you're still learning. You're still trying to figure out. And on top of the fact that Potter also had injury situations and now has new players coming in, I think it probably does make sense with the way that this season has gone.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But so I guess I would change my answer to say no, Nick. I am really surprised by that. But you are back with the MPET shithouse moment of the match.
An easy one. On Reece James' return, he decides to pull one out of the old bag of tricks and easily just slam the ball out of Anthony Robinson's hands. All Anthony Robinson did was just kind of laugh about it. So it was all kind of good fun. But it was just, just a dumb shit house thing. And it was great. And I will say, I know we'll touch on Reese at some point later in this episode. The TIFOs today were just extraordinary stuff. Like, really well done with the banners. I know we are the Shed are involved. I'm not sure who's in charge of the other one, but both were absolutely fantastic. A little built different, a little champions of Europe, he's one of our own. Just fantastic.
He posted them on social. Obviously, he really appreciated them, and understandably so. So it was good that he kind of got his moment for that. Anyways, we're going to take a real quick break. When we get back, jumping right into Enzo's Blue debut. Why not, right? So thank you to the sponsors for financially supporting the show, and we'll be right back. All right, so coming out of the break, Enzo's Blue debut, our kingdom for a midfielder. It was good to see him. I didn't think he'd slot right in. I put that in the WhatsApp. Ollie told me to behave myself and that we need him. Once again, Ollie was right. And it didn't matter if he was unfamiliar with his teammates. It didn't matter if he's unfamiliar with the league or passing patterns or anything. He wanted to go in there, and he did such a good job right away. Statman Dave summing it all up, saying 100% aerial duels won, 96 touches, 85% pass accuracy, 10 ball recoveries, 8 of 11 ground duels won, 6 of 8 tackles won, 6 of 7 long balls completed, 3 clearances in a key pass, controlled the tempo well in midfield. That's the stat test, right? Nick, immediately onto the eye test. I think everyone left going, yeah, I think he's going to do well here. Again, no preparation. He was in a different country, 48 hours ago. All the media he's done, he's probably barely been on the pitch. And that's what he goes and rocks up in his debut. He almost scored the game winner.
and not even playing in his real position. He was playing as like a lone 6 today with Mason and Connor kind of running as 8s. He's outstanding. There's no other way to kind of come out of this but say, like, yeah, you pair him with someone else who's a little bit more defensively minded and allow him to do a little bit more running and do what we've seen in the various highlight reels that people have put out over the last few weeks, what he can do carrying the ball, what he can do in the final third. And that's a real player. I just left. I left very frustrated that we couldn't get him further up the pitch today, Dan. And I think in the spaces in which he was asked to defend, he did decent enough to make up for it. But that's not really why we bought him.
Well, he did have a nice welcome to Premier League football when Mitrovic and him ended up getting in a little bit of a tussle, almost like it was a Greco-Roman wrestling match for a second and not a football match being played in the Premier League. I don't know. I thought it was a great introduction. It was so close to being an absolute dream start for him. I think our good friend Ollie mentioned that most of the people in Stamford Bridge thought the shot might have actually gone in when he just pulled that out of his locker, tried from distance. Unfortunately, not to be in this scenario, but he showed very comfortable possession, willingness to play the ball forward, willingness to drop back into defense, as you mentioned, playing in that 6, so being alongside like Badiashile and Silva. And so actually very similar to at times how we used Jorginho in prior regimes, but he did ultimately a little bit later in the game when we were trying to chase something, was pushing forward, particularly when when we made the switch to like Madueke and Sterling, who were getting a little further forward. Then, even Chilwell at the end when he came in, you were getting to see a little bit more of that progressive skill set, Brandon, but ultimately a strong debut, maybe underpinned by not necessarily everybody being on the same page yet, because there was just some connective tissue that was missing.
Yeah, and understandably so, because there's new faces. But what I would say, if you go back to the starting lineup, we got to do a little bit of scrolling here. Obviously, Enzo just got here. Mudrik's been here for a little bit. Badiashile's been here for a while, like there's only one new face to that team. I mean, Madueke came in later, and he probably doesn't have a lot of minutes with the team. And even Didi Fofana, he's been at the club a while too. So there's a little bit. We had 2 weeks for this. I would have liked to have seen Chelsea shot out of the cannon on this one, and I think that we definitely were good in the aggressive situation. I mean, having Reece James reminds us just how much he adds to the team in a positive. Enzo was good, but I think there's just still some issues within the team that you think could have been prevented after all of this. And I know we're probably not. I don't know. Do you guys want to go on to point two? Am I transitioning nicely into that? Or are we?
I'm gonna finish on Enzo before we get there, because I think the future state with him is that he's either running as an 8, right, or he's paired with someone as a 6 who has license to do kind of what Kovacic has done a lot for us, right, which is a little bit of roaming, a little bit of advancing the ball up the field, has to get back and do his defensive duties, all that sort of stuff. But I think in this moment today, thinking about the way that Fulham played, which was an incredibly intense press. I mean, and they played it for all 90 minutes. I mean, I think you got to give credit to Fulham for the way they just kind of pressed us into making poor decisions all day. Enzo didn't get pressed. Enzo completed 85% of his passes. And I think one of them, like, he sprayed out to Cucurella a little bit too far, and like they flash back and Cucurella was like giving him a thumbs up, and he was like really frustrated with himself for missing that one pass. Like, the cat is class. He just needs help. Like, he's not going to be able to do this by himself in the Premier League. And I think from a physicality perspective, Dan, I was listening to you and Sam break him down, and like the lunging was something that Sam called out as like he has to be smarter about the way that he positions himself defensively, and like not going in for tackles with extreme abandon, that kind of stuff. I thought he did pretty well today on that front. He didn't overcommit. He didn't commit any crazy fouls. He seemed up for the physical challenge, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see when you can put him together in a pivot with Zakaria and Santos, or maybe like that would be a fun one to kind of have. And then you play him further forward in that midfield 3. I think that would be super interesting. Or maybe even just as a 2 where, Santos, where Fernandez is playing super far forward and Zakaria is really the one playing deeper and disrupting play. I just think you're going to get more of what he can do to set up the attackers, which was limited a little bit, but also I think credit to Fulham because they've been drilling this way. They didn't make a lot of signings. They're not betting in a lot of new team members. They're just continuing on from where they've come from. And that has been to be a really stable side that has made it difficult for other teams. And they did that effectively today. So, I mean, hats off to them for making it a really unfortunate game for us.
Enzo good. Now on to the bad.
Well, and before that, I was just trying to switch over real quick to see if I could find Enzo's pass map, essentially, because you guys know how much I love a good pass map, especially when it includes progressive passes, but I don't know if I'm gonna get to see it, unfortunately. So too many. There we go. Forward passes. I mean, he just had a ton. He had an absolute ton of forward passes. He was all over the middle of the pitch, like the middle 40 yards. He was just everywhere roaming. So from my perspective, what I like to see is I think we saw more risky passes today, especially like getting into the advanced area. He was quick to start the counterattack. And I think those were the times where Chelsea were most dangerous. Obviously, you're catching the team in transition. Yeah. We just didn't have it a lot in the past, which is why, my Twitter bio still likes vertical passes from midfield, because it was a very obvious missing part. He has the ability and the confidence to bet on himself to hit those passes. And it really opened up some really good chances today. I think we missed 2 big chances on the day. And, it came from that quick transition, which was a lot of times coming from him, which is good. So that was a breath of fresh air for me, for sure. All right. If we look at the next topic, Friday Night Football doesn't delight. Some good, some bad, some happy, some sad. The obvious thing is like, oh, another clean sheet, right? That's good. We love to see it. That's 3 clean sheets in a row, dating all the way back to the 15th of January. The 12th of January, we played Fulham and we lost 2-1, and it was Joao Felix's debut red card. So we've come a long way since we last played Fulham. 2-1. We beat Crystal Palace 1-0, drew Liverpool away 0-0, and now Fulham 0-0. So defense, fine, right? I think we're all happy with Kepa. We're all happy with Badiashile, Silva, erratic Kukurea, Reece James back. I'm good. Like, no problem. It's going forward. The attack today, I think you're just that striker short. That wasn't the perfect solution in the window, but you essentially had Kai, Mudryk, Ziyech, and Mount in attack with Gallagher marauding around a little bit behind them. We got 12 shots, 2 big chances, but of our shots, Nick, which, it's important that we know what kind of shots we got. We had 7 that were completely off target. We had only 3 that were on target, and 2 of them were blocked. And then obviously Havertz hit the woodwork. We had 8 shots inside the box and 4 outside. So no goals also.
No, I mean, you think about the real chances that we had today, right? So there are 4 real chances that I'm going to pull out. Mason to Havertz. Havertz should have done a lot better there, even if the ball was a little bit elevated. Like he's
0.34 XG.
Tim Ream got a little bit on that one, right?
Yeah, right. But still, I mean, I think that's a goal waiting to happen. That's one. The second one is Havertz all alone, all the time in the world, one-on-one with keeper, and decides to go for a chip that makes no fucking sense. The third one is Datro Fofana, one-on-one with the goal and doesn't score. And then the fourth one is Raheem at the end trying to do a nice little lofted chip to the corner, which the goalkeeper catches. Those are the 4 chances that if any one of them go in, the narrative's different. But this has been our narrative this year. We have 21 goals in 21 Premier League matches. That is not good enough. And I think the broader thing that I am really worried about mostly is, we missed those chances today. We've missed chances all year. We'll talk about CFC Central stat here in a second that he continues to have as a running thing on his Twitter. But I don't understand offensively where the passing lanes are. I don't understand what they're asking any of these players to do. I mean, Mason Mount struggled today. Ziyech struggled today. Mudryk got the ball 4 times in the first half. Kai Havertz was bad, really bad. Fofana was okay. Kind of looked like he was, at least trying some new stuff. And Madueke was just pure vibes with no positional awareness whatsoever. And he was good. I liked Madueke's offensive performance, but it left huge gaps in behind. Like Willian basically had a free run at goal because no one was tracking back as Madueke got the ball while Azpilicueta was far upfield and didn't control it, didn't understand where the play was. It's kind of to the point to me that if this formation isn't working, or if the back three is you have to figure out how to play football and score goals. And I think Enzo Fernandez will help. Yes, I think Mudryk will help. Yes, I think Madueke will help. Getting out a healthy Raheem Sterling back, great. Our play is so slow in the final third. It is so plodding. And then when we do get chances, we don't score them. I'm lost for words at what I'm seeing here, because we had 2 shots on goal against Liverpool. We had 2 the week before. It's just not good enough.
The thing I was looking at, in Rob, who I think it's with RPJ or RP Journalism or whatever on Twitter, made the point that if you just were to use the XG, which I know is not necessarily everybody's favorite stat, but the match versus Palace, which we won, the match against Fulham where we lost, the match against Liverpool and now this match is 4 matches in a row where, based upon the shot and the XG being the likelihood a similar shot out of 100 times goes into the back of the net, Chelsea should have, if we just cut it that way, should have won based upon XG the last 4 matches. And so I would say the underlying that the data and the shots being taken would tell you that, like, we are finding ways to get into positions to take these shots and put them into a position where they could be converted. It is now down to individual player performance that is lacking the rough, it's still rough on the edges. And so, like, I think in general, like, I felt good about some of the way that this team was set up today in terms of getting us into a position where we could control the pitch, where we could reduce down the amount of space that our team was having to get around. I know we were recycling to that point, in terms of having to move the ball a little bit more side to side and forward, though there were some forward passes that were very exciting. And it just was like the Enzo to Mason, then to Kai was a really nice interchange there. So, like, we do have an ability to do that, Brandon, but it's just not coalescing at the end of it. And I mean, I don't know, I guess it gets you super excited for Nkunku coming in the summer, where you're going to have someone who knows how to score a goal more regularly. Because I don't know if Havertz now is on 5 of those big chances that he's missed, if there's a trust that he's going to be able to be the person to be the leader of the line. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joao Felix gets popped in and then Havertz rests the next match.
So I would say we did a good job of breaking lines today. There was many times we were running at their back line where their midfield was nowhere to be found. It's consistently a decisive pass. Thiago Silva hit that beautiful.
What a chip that was.
Just you hit that so nice where it's a lightly driven ball, backspin, so it's on a pure trajectory. Kai's just not clinical. He's definitely in his head. Like, you can tell that. He took a lot of shots today, which is good. That's half the battle, but like nothing with teeth. I mean, in the ball that he ended up kind of like one touch lofting into that hit the goal, even that, like, he should have brought that down and done something with it, but he just didn't know what to do. So he kept letting it bounce until he had to jump and attack it himself. So, he clearly isn't in a good spot. We talked a little bit about the left side being really erratic, Mason and Kukurea and Mudryk. That did not work today, and Mudryk was pulled off at that expense. He only had 19 touches. Do you really blame him? If you see Mudryk take 2 steps, put it into space. Like, I saw him, he is so fast. Like, he doesn't really track back a lot. I still think he's trying to figure out his role in the team, but offensively, it doesn't matter. Like, put Sonic the Hedgehog into space and let him run. He will fly. And we didn't play to that. And so, like I said, I think we did a good job of kind of like jailbreaking on them. But once we got anywhere close to the box, it really did all fall apart. And there's no killer instinct. I was really happy with Fofana's ability to dribble Leno and then, kind of keep his poise and composure. Unfortunately, he hit it right where Tim Ream was. But he
had a great game.
But yeah,
a really great game.
But he created that chance, right? And then I think on the flip side, if you guys look at Mitrovic, God, he's so annoying to play against.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that. He bullied our back line. Even from the beginning of the game, he was like taking 3 extra steps just to run into Badiashile, just to make sure he knew he was there and he wasn't going to give him anything. We just don't have that. There's no presence whatsoever. So the only thing we're going to get is either A, Havertz is going to get the rest of the season, right? Him and Potter say, all right, you know what? It's on you. Show us if you're going to be here after this season. If not, they're going to go small and interchanging, right? Joao Felix, Mudryk, Mason, whoever, and you just put really, really fast players in, you try to interchange, but there's nobody on this team that is going to lead the line with any sort of presence this season. So they need to get creative real quick.
I mean, the two opportunities, or actually all four of those opportunities that I mentioned, came when we attacked them with pace and directness around their box, right? Mason gets the ball, runs ahead, clips the one with his left foot. Again, I think that should be a goal. The ball over the top to Kai, direct, straight at him, like onside by a mile. That's another one. Like the Datra Fofana one, same thing, right? Direct, right at him. Now their goalkeeper makes a huge blunder there, and we should have scored, right? But like, why are we scared of conflict in the final third? It bothers me, man.
I had this, I guess the phrase that I felt like I wanted to attribute to some of the attacking performances was casual. And I feel bad saying that as someone who clearly will never be a professional footballer, but just observing the interactions and the interchange with some of the attempted back heels or cute quick passes in very tight space and tight quarters that Ziyech to Connor or Ziyech to Reese or Ziyech trying to play it into Havertz just really didn't come off as intended and was very easily disrupted by a Fulham side that was set up to make that difficult for us and to not allow for a lot of space. And so that to me felt like we were trying something we knew wasn't going to work. And we knew that there were things that were going to work, like an over-the-top ball running into space that, I mean, previously we had Timo Werner on this side, right? You play it forward, you let him run. He creates all this space on the left or the right. And you now have people like Enzo Fernandez, Badiashile even, who is kind of cross-passing to Reese. That was very exciting. Mm-hmm. That there's something to build on there. We're just not, I think to the point you made, Nick, once it gets the final third, it's not fast enough to catch anybody out. It really slows up. Like you've approached like you're pulling back on the horse saying, whoa, okay, we're done. Let's pause now and then reassess and regroup.
Well, I mean, I'll take your horse analogy one further. I mean, we've all seen that paint, the drawing of the horse that goes from like super professional all the way to like kindergarten level in the same body. I mean, that's us moving the ball up the field, like super confident, competent passing, great, got through the midfield, great, got it out to the wings. And then the minute the 18-yard box comes up, Brandon, it is just like that they freeze. They're mentally blocked from making the right pass or making the right choice. And it's worrisome because I think you mentioned this earlier, like this, you had 2 weeks of prep for this. You had 2 weeks to run drills. Of course, you didn't have every single player in training during that time, but like, okay, whatever. The players who like Havertz, who have been there all season, like he should have been sharp and ready today, you know? And that to me is just like, look, man, Felix comes back next match. Like, I don't think you can play both of them together.
No, and I don't think you need to either, you know? So trying to see, I mean, we've covered just so much in this one. I think Havertz had like a 0.5 something XG alone, you know, and like that should be enough at this level within this team to find something. Ziyech put the ball in the box, got it to people like he was supposed to do. And it didn't come off, which I think was, you know, just again, really, really frustrating.
13 out of 14 big chances missed.
Kai was 0.7 between his two main chances alone.
Yes, and I'm on the McGlock bot here, ringing in things, looking at some different stats. You will, and again, the Badiashile stats. Wait till they start to accumulate. He had like the third highest progressive pass distance, and I think he led the team in progressive carry distance. The guy gets it and is like, we're going, and he's not afraid to play a ball. I was just kind of looking at this, and it's so exciting to see.
And on Badiashile, just talking about the defensive side, when Willian got that ball and was the ball that I mentioned earlier that Madueke did not, he doesn't know yet, right? He doesn't know the system yet. He's only been here a week. But like when as Piliqueta was up and Madueke was up and he lost the ball, Badiashile came across Silva to go track down Willian, caught him and put him off enough where the final ball didn't get in to Mitrovic. I mean, Badiashile was absolutely everywhere today. Now, he did make some errors as well. Like, he didn't have a perfect game, but he was fucking everywhere. And it was a really interesting thing, Dan. I don't know if you noticed, but they swapped positions, him and Silva, a couple of times intentionally. And I wonder if that was just simply to get the passing going on either side, just like kind of strength to strength. It was really odd.
We saw that later in the attack as well, when Madueke and Sterling kept on swapping once or twice and trying to create different areas of space. I mean, obviously we saw Reece James is probably not 100%. You know, we also saw that Mykhailo Mudryk was pulled off early. He had a cold during the week and they thought they were going to get 60 minutes, but they kept it at the 45. Ben Chilwell gets an opportunity. That's going to be a really interesting thing to watch over the next couple of weeks, with Cucurella maybe struggling a little bit more in this match than he has in a few of the prior performances. I think there's just a lot that is open for debate right now. I think this is the first time with players coming back healthy, with the new players that have been signed, that you can start to really question the decision of Graham Potter for squad selection, who gets an opportunity to play when the subs are happening. We are not far away from being able to have more, structured conversation about what's translating onto the pitch, because a lot of it has been Band-Aid, right? And there's a lot of blank checks that have been written to say we are trying to fix a problem and solve a problem. And I think we've gotten to the point where you have a lot of the personnel who can now make this happen. I think there's still one midfielder missing and an attacker coming later in the summer, but you're at least in a better position than you have been, Nick. And that's maybe where, I don't know, I think there is a little patience required, even though this match did end in a unfavorable way where we could have had all 3 points, but we ended up with one.
For sure. We did just get an updated big chance miss graph from Ollie, as if he's like listening into us record this. Kai Havertz
he's in a spy balloon.
he's hanging out over Kansas City. You guys saw that. Kai Havertz has missed 9 big chances this year. His shot conversion rate is 8.5%. It's not very good. Raheem Sterling's missed 5, I think is in the 15 percentile. Armando Barrea missed 3 with 14%. Aubameyang 2, Lewis Hall 2, Mudryk 2, Pulisic 1. That's a lot of goals right there.
Well, the thing though with that is you will see big chances missed if you are a side that is also creating a lot of opportunities.
Sure, definitely.
So like this is not necessarily like a 1-for-1 indicator. However, to see the shot conversion at 8.5, like Raheem Sterling missing 5 and having a conversion at over 15%, or Broya having a conversion at 14% with 3 missed big chances, those are things that are better to see than the one of Kai Havertz, which is 8.5 converted off of 9. And so like that's the other thing, is just to layer in beneath it, is like this Brandon is showing that at least we're putting people into the position. Now they have to go finish it.
I think that's that was kind of my general gist, right? It's like we can hit people on the break. We can create attacking moves. We just absolutely hopeless when it comes to the assist and the finish. I think both of those are really poor with this group. They're lacking in confidence as well, but like there's no time to kind of figure it out. I saw a lot of that. Hey, you got to have patience and stuff, of course, but like results still matter. The league is still continuing, even though we signed a bunch of players and Potter has to bed people in. Like there still has to be some end product and urgency as well. So we can't just kind of trickle it to the end of the season. All right, we're going to take our last ad break. When we get back, again, some changes, ideas, creative problem solving potentially. So thank you to the sponsors. We'll be right back. Okay, well, I just got done retweeting all the McGlockbot stuff, so that's good. Check it out if you want. Enzo is a pass machine. Again, there's just a lot of data that is coming out still that I think will help us paint the picture. But, we've got a week off, right? We've got some time to to bed some people in. Sounds like we need to get some people healthy, get it sorted out before we take on West Ham. So the nice thing with this little, 2-week run is that we're essentially their home games, right? You're at West Ham on the other side of town. It doesn't really disrupt the lifestyle, not a big trek with travel involved or anything like that. But they're not in a good spot. So again, you could say, Nick, that Fulham were in a much better spot than us, quite literally in the table. We could have jumped them if we won, which would have been nice, but we didn't. West Ham very much in a fight for survival. They are in 16th place on 18 points, only one away from relegation. So every match is important to them. You're starting to get to that, like, do you really want to take on a dog that's backed into a corner? It's going to come out swinging. We got a week. I guess, what are we hoping to see on the Chelsea unseen video heading into West Ham next week?
I hope they stop putting out content this week. Like, just focus on the work. I don't give a shit about the content right now. I really want to see a starting 11 play cohesively together. I understand a week's not a tremendous amount of time, but that's definitely what I want to see. And, ideally, I'd like to see this team do nothing but finishing drills this week. I want these players to see the ball going into the back of the net as much as humanly possible this week, because, we can play as good defensively as anyone in the league when we want to. We haven't always this year. Let me be very plain about that. But the last 3 games, been very, very, very solid. But if we don't score goals, we're going nowhere this year. So that has to be the priority now. And this has to be a little scary for Potter, right? He has a lot of selections to make. He has a lot of decisions to make. And it kind of seems like he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, but he's going to have to figure it out. He's going to have to figure out passages of play that free up the right resources to do the right things. And that right thing, Dan, is putting the ball in the back of the net. So I think there's pressure on him, and I think there's pressure on the guys up front to deliver when the ball goes in.
The key thing to me is that West Ham is likely, and I made the case in our newsletter, that the most likely way that Chelsea get qualified for the Champions League again next season, stupidly enough, is to go win it this season, because getting top 4 is becoming increasingly difficult when you continue to drop points. And I know that you don't love the idea of the why not us train, but if you're saying we're going to bet the season on having to only win 7 games or draw and win a mix of 7 games, that would seem potentially easier to pull off. So I would imagine this West Ham game is still going to be about getting some fitness for some players who are coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 60 minutes for Ben Chilwell, if he was good to come on today for the very end, or maybe he gets a bigger appearance for a likely transition into him starting. I would imagine Reece James gets more fitness as well. Badiashile is playing every Premier League minute for the remainder of the season, given that he is not a part of Chelsea's Champions League side. He was the one, unfortunately, out of the 4 who lost out due to the registration. So Mikhailo Mudryk, Joao Felix, and Enzo Fernandez get selected. It kind of just makes sense given who they are, where they play on the pitch, and they can provide that game-winning element to it. And then it's really about how quickly can we get 1 or 2 of these midfielders healthy enough to be a partner or partners to Enzo Fernandez in the coming future. Like, I don't think the solution is Mason Mount or Conor Gallagher at this moment. It's getting Zakaria, Kovacic, Conte eventually healthy enough to play with him so that you can take advantage of this really bright attacking core that Raheem Sterling is coming back. That was great to see today. Like, he was the primary driver of goals in the early part of the season. So good to have him back, Brandon. Like, there's positive signs. There are things that are pointing in a positive direction, even if today did not feel like it was the best end outcome.
Well, for sure. What I like, West Ham are in a bad spot. They're not even scoring 1 goal per game. They're conceding 1.3. They only have 4 clean sheets. Like, this is a good team to play if you want to try to boost your confidence. Now, we could have said that about a lot of other teams we've, played and tried to break down, but this one is statistically on paper like a really good chance to break the scoring duck. We've got Southampton coming up as well, which are bottom of the table, right? Like, you don't get a lot of chances to play these teams. You absolutely have to win these types of games. I don't know. What I was trying to like break down what Potter was thinking today with the lineup, right? Like, I was a little bit cheeky. I said, is Ziyech getting apology minutes? Like, sorry, we kind of screwed you. So like, hey, we're going to let you play because we want to try to help you get through this. They made this a man management tactic. Mudryk played, Enzo right away. Raheem came on at the end, didn't really seal it. So like, you think Potter's just going to go all in on kind of like the young team? Is he going to, continue to make changes? As people start to come back from fitness, Chilwell played 10 minutes. Can he do a half next time? I think we're still probably 3 weeks out, aka Champions League, second leg of like knowing what our full strength, healthy team is. And so I think it's a little bit interesting with some of the new players. Is he just going to throw them in right away? Like I said, we saw Madueke today. Fofana came in, like he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. Seems like he just kind of threw the old playbook out and was like, nah, we're a new team.
So with the Fofana one of the quotes that Potter had afterwards when asked about Aubameyang not being in the squad, specifically about Fofana in that answer, he said, we want to give David some game time today, see where he's at, give him an opportunity. I think you saw that one flash he's got. Pierre is just unfortunate, and he will be fighting for his place for the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see David Dr. Fofana over the next couple of matches to see if he can offer something or he can be potentially a replacement option or a off the bench option for our strikers.
Which again, up and coming young player from the Norwegian league now, getting minutes in the Premier League, big jump.
I really wanted that one for him today. God, it would have been sweet.
Huge.
So I mean, from your standpoint, I guess we go back to back four. Do you play back three? I mean, what do you think, Nick? Obviously, they had the stat at the beginning. He's made a shit ton of changes to his lineup. He's getting closer to a fully healthy squad. There's a lot of new faces. You really only have to juggle Champions League because those rosters are locked. Premier League, there's a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been juggling this in my head, right? Because I watched this play today and I wanted us to do a lot more with what we had. Like, I don't feel like Reece was in the game at all today. Not to his standards, especially going forward, because he had responsibility back. I think to get the best out of Reece, you got to play with wingbacks. I think the problem with that scenario is I don't know if Trev or Koulibaly is the right solution in a back three right now, or if either's like healthy or ready to play. Wesley certainly isn't ready to play yet. So, I'm kind of torn on like formationally, what do you do? Because I actually feel like we were open at the end when we were trying to go for it a little bit, to the point where a third center back and playing wing backs might have been the best case. I mean, we just really didn't get a whole lot out of the eights today, either one.
Yeah. And,
you make the argument to me, Dan, that like, okay, Nick, but what if we get any partner for Enzo back there and we can, string some passes together, and maybe you put Kai at the 10 and Felix up top, or vice versa, and then you have better connection with a 4-2-3-1. It didn't work for me today, even though we did create the chances that I thought we should have scored. So I'm debating like what the right scenario is to get the best out of the players that we have and that we think will start, basically.
I think it's a back three. If you remember what this side is capable of when you have the fullbacks who can push forward, when you take advantage of the speed of Mudryk on one side, most likely Felix in the center. If you get Zakaria fit and he can play behind and allow Enzo to push forward with that attacking 2-3, whatever it looks like. If you can overload on the left hand or right hand side with Reece James or Ben Chilwell, there's a lot that can be done there. I think we haven't talked about Fofana coming back healthy. I mean, that gives you an extra defender in the back. I know that there's the concern about potentially having to rely on Koulibaly when it comes to the Champions League matches. You're going to have to do some type of rotation in the back because, again, we know that Thiago Silva, who looks likely to sign an extension, whether that's 1 year or 2 years, keep him here forever. He's absolutely amazing. He's watching the women's training to absorb more there as well. So, like, he's just the perfect footballer. I think there is a path forward. I think we are just too, like, we need 1 or 2 more data points in terms of matches to understand, like, where is Graham going with this side.
BB, you going back 3 or back 4?
I mean, can I have Lewis Hall? That's all I want. Like, is like annoying as that is. You know, I think you can go back 3. You know, I'm fine with Batty, Silva, and Trevo. You know, I've got a lot of faith in that group. You know, I think it helps us control the game a little bit higher up the pitch when we have the wing backs. We can just press higher. You know, you got Silva with 2 young guns on either side of him. That they can both progress the ball and pass the ball. So that's what I think I would like to do, because I mean, I want to be on the front foot from the absolute beginning with against West Ham. Again, though, is Potter trying to prepare for long term, you know, with the back 4, but I think right now he doesn't have that luxury. Like, you got to go game to game, and I would go back 3.
Yeah, you can fix that shit in the offseason. You got to win matches now. You know, I would do the same. I mean, I think when Reece James gets high up the field, when Ben Chilwell gets high up the field, good shit happens for us. And I think that Enzo, as we saw today, can pass from a deeper range with really great accuracy. I think the key, if you end up going with the back 3, is that Felix almost plays as like a false 9 in that scenario, kind of like Kai has in the past, where he is available to grab the ball in you know, with a progressive pass through the midfield, and is maybe able to distribute it out and then make the run. That's a lot of work for that position, right? It's being a false 9 is a hard job, but I think that's the way it can work. So you have an outlet through the center, because I think there were times under Tuchel where we just did the roundabout the entire time and it just never went anywhere. There was no progressive pass through. So you're gonna have to be really smart about that, or do really smart overlap so that Mudryk or whoever plays right wing, Sterling, Madueke, Ziyech, gets to cut in, right? Otherwise, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I did see a lineup prediction just now. People were like putting Kova in. I'm like, he's not ready. He still has his calf injury. So you're limited options in midfield too. Zakaria, he's day-to-day essentially. Kova's out long time. Conte's back in training, but you know, you don't expect him to come in anytime soon. Like, you might as well just make your life a little bit easier versus trying to play. And, you know, does Connor need a rest? You know, like, he runs himself into the ground. I think he had a frustrating day out. Corners were not good. I think you got to let Mason play through it, but only for maybe a couple more games. You know, something's just has to change for him besides his haircut, which was a nice little mullet today, which I appreciated.
Yeah, who do you pair though? I mean, is it Ruben? Is it like who's the other midfielder? Because I really don't know right now who that is.
I think, look, yeah, I mean, if Ruben's healthy, for sure, I think he goes right in there, right, to play, like, I hate to say it this way, the Zakaria role, you know, big man, sit back, protect, hover. I wonder what Mount and Enzo potentially do is midfield. You know, Mount plays in a midfield too with England at times. But you're right. You know, the midfield kind of picks itself right now with Gallagher being available.
Yeah, I think that's what happened today. And I worry that, like, if Enzo is really the only central midfielder that we have, and he's left-footed. You know, I don't know. That's the frustrating part.
All right. Well, Dan didn't do the end of the match, even though we drew.
Yeah, Dan.
There's a lot of negativity on social media, so I decided to go back to work for the hours in between recording this and the end of the match, and that was a better choice for me.
Congrats to Batty Shield. You have done it again. You sly fox.
Maybe Lee Parker.
Him or Silva. I mean, Lee Parker always gets a man of the match from us. So, yeah, that absolutely 100% of the time. 1,000% of the time.
Clean sheets, made some saves. We're recording this on Friday, so none of the other matches have been played. So the table, who knows what it'll be like by the time this comes out. So there's really nothing to, I would say, kind of run down for everybody here. As we look at the matches that are happening, this weekend, Tottenham Man City is the big one, obviously. Other than that, there's not really a lot going on this weekend. It's a lot of number 1 seeds versus 14 seeds essentially throughout the weekend. So I think if you were going to have a betting weekend, this is a pretty safe weekend that you could place a few bets and probably win if you're just doing money line. But you, Dan, decided to throw in a ridiculous table. A lot of colors, a lot of shading here. It says predicted final league position. So this would be probabilities of where they think teams are going to land via Opta. And Chelsea, they think, is most likely with a 30% probability of landing in 8th. We could go all the way, though, from 3rd all the way down to 12th.
Well, when you start to add up where those are at, it's effectively a 65% probability. It's somewhere between 5th and 7th position. So not too far away from where Chelsea are right now. The likelihood of going into a relegation spot is very unlikely, considering on the opposite end, Southampton, Everton, and Bournemouth all have over 60, 70+% probability that they are not avoiding the drop. So yeah, this goes back to, this just is the kind of the generation of my thesis that really the Premier League this season, unless you want to be in Europa League next season, unless you want to be in Conference League next season, are you putting your eggs in this basket or are you putting your eggs in the Champions League basket? And that's why I think that look, you can get knocked out against Dortmund. I don't think that is the reality. I think that the Champions League is wide open and you've still got a game now to figure it out. And even if you give up a goal, there's no away goal rule anymore in this kind of first leg here. So it's all even Stevens in that regard. And then you would just need to score 2. So, I mean, again, we're scoring at the rate that we need, potentially should count on trying to come back from a 1-0 down type of opportunity, Nick. But this is why I am not as concerned about the Premier League performances. Cause we're not going to get most likely top 4. It's just the math behind it is not in good condition.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta score goals and win games. I don't know. This is not that hard of a sport, right? The more you win, the better chances you have. Chelsea have not won enough, and that's why we sit 9th with Liverpool having 2 games in hand behind us in 10th and being 1 point behind. I mean, it's not pretty reading right now. And I think the last thing I'd say is obviously there are a lot of differing opinions on Graham Potter and his process right now. I think, again, we've been preaching patience all year. The goals have to come, though. I mean, the performances have to improve. They have to get better, because when he first started, the performances were much better. Then we had all the injuries. Then we had the World Cup, and the performances just haven't really picked back up with the talent reemerging. So, I'm hopeful in him, and I know that he has a plan, that staff has a plan, that, directors have a plan. We got to see some progress here through the end of the year.
Yeah. And the structure above him, right, just got put in place. Look, if you haven't listened to the Tinkerman, you need to go. They did a phenomenal job talking about the rebuild and the transition. And I think what they said was, Brighton are successful not because of Potter. They were successful because of the machine around Potter, from the owner to the technical director, the scouting network, and then the manager. And we've seen that because De Zerbi's gone into that system and ready to go. And this is what they're trying to build at Chelsea, right? We just didn't do it in like the typical order. If you got to start from scratch, we've had to, and I hate this term, build the plane while we're flying it. But that is literally what we're doing. So we have we don't have a medical department. The structure just got put in place. There's more changes continuing to come. More players have been brought in. So it is very much just an assembly line missing a lot of parts and pieces, or, we're putting them together while we're trying to also play games. So hopefully the quieter schedule will help with these things. But, there's a lot going on too. And you just think about this, like, what's Aubameyang going to be like? What's Ziyech going to be like? They both were dealt huge blows, and we expect them to come back into the team. Now they have to manage that as well. And it's just, I do have some empathy, do have some sympathy, but again, the league goes on. You don't get to sit on the sideline, build it, and come back when you're ready. You gotta perform every single week. So we will. Hopefully it's a good weekend. Hopefully all the big teams lose. Except the problem is if teams around us win, we might drop even further.
It's a no-win position right now.
Yeah, pretty much. But we're still hopeful. I don't think all of the excitement, optimism is washed away, Dan, from the transfer window. It definitely blunted it today. But if you go back and just smack West Ham, keep another clean sheet, I think that there's going to be some resiliency in the fans with that.
Well, look, it was a draw and a loss, and it happened on Friday, which means you can kind of still enjoy your weekend because Chelsea didn't ruin it on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Word, Dan. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Again, like I said, we had a full week of content, some really good stuff. Matt Law dropped a ton of knowledge. Tinkerman crushed it as well. Blue Royalties continuing to do the businesses. Their transfer window ended as well. So make sure you catch up on that. We have the newsletter went out as well. So I don't know, like bored, that's on you. So we're not because we're not doing it. So hope you're enjoying it. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Again, Chelsea on a Friday, just a bit weird. I don't think it's what any of us liked. It's definitely not what the UK fans like, but you gotta do it for the TV time, which puts money in the pockets of the club. So anyways, we're gonna wrap there. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.